Today is all about Epic. 8DO have released what has long been a professional composer favourite for years, but until recently was only available to a select few industry insiders. It's now available to you. This is 8DO's Majestica. Welcome back everyone into the Sampleist. My name's Greg Revell. I'm so very glad you could join me today. 8DO have pulled out all the stops to give you a one-stop shop for all things Epic. Majestica claims to be the biggest orchestra ever sampled, containing 240 players divided into 4 sections, 100 string players, 60 brass, 60 woodwind and 30 percussion players. Majestica comes in 3 flavours, Majestica Standard, Majestica Pro and Majestica Ultra, priced at $58, $78 and $98 respectively. Majestica Standard packs an epic 240-piece orchestra with strings, brass, winds and percussion. With Pro, you get an additional 4 spot mics for each instrument section, and with Ultra, you get everything in Pro, as well as an extended set of ambiances, film synths, orchestra design effects, and synth spiccatos, adding an amazing range of additional instruments and sound sources. Everything you need to go large. Majestica requires the full retail Contact 6.7.1 or later. The Contact player is not supported, and the full Majestica requires just a shade over 66 gigabytes of disk space installed. And as always, our Declaration of Independence. While I'm very grateful to the 8DO team for making a copy of Majestica available for today's video, they've had no input whatsoever into its production. At the Sampleist, we pride ourselves on being free to give our own opinions unfettered by obligation. And before we kick things off, if you love this content, smash the like button and subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell to keep on top of the latest news and products from the world of virtual instruments. And with that said, let's fire up the door and take a look at 8DO's Majestica. Hey, welcome everyone, one and all, to 8DO's Majestica. Now, I don't even know where to start with this because, as the name suggests, Majestica is majestic in every sense of the word, and the amount of content you get with this library is unfathomable. So I'm not going to be able to take you through every possible permutation, articulation and mic setting because we will be here for an eternity. Now, I'll be showing you today Majestica Ultra. There are 3 flavours of Majestica. There is the Majestica itself that we all know and love, which comes with 240 players in a massive orchestra, 100 string players, there's 60 brass players, 60 wind players and 20 percussionists, all sampled in all its epic glory. Majestica also has the Pro setting, which allows you to select between different mic positions. So these also get the traditional deco tree and the outriggers and the wide mics, but you can also get a range of spot mics that you can tailor your sound for your particular instrument. More on that shortly. And finally, there is the Ultra. Ultra is the all singing, all dancing, everything that you get with Majestica and Majestica Pro, but you also get a range of synthesizers, effects, expanded percussive elements, and a huge wide range of options. Whew, that's a heck of a lot to get through. So let's take you down a cursory overview of what Majestica is all about because I think you will love it. Okay, so before I load up one of the patches, let's have a quick look out on the left-hand panel here in Contact on how this all hangs together. Under Majestica Ultra, we have some documentation, but obviously, most importantly, the instruments themselves. The instruments are set out as follows. You will get brass, high winds, low winds, percussion master and strings as the main and spot microphones. So in each of these categories here, you'll get the full complement of a main patch and its equivalent spot. Likewise, there's high winds with main and spots, low winds with main and spot mics. Percussion likewise, echoed throughout the rest of the list there. You get the full range of all the individual articulations if you'd prefer than having them all set up in one particular instance of contact. You get a range in Ultra of ambiences, which is organic ambiences, Tavaglione ambiences, some vocal ambiences. Again, more on that shortly. We have some film bass, so some synthesizer or synth mod basses to really enhance that bottom end in your bass. There's Ultra Film Brass, which is some synthesizers that you can use in conjunction with your brass to make them even more epic than what they already do. There's Orchestral Designs that gives you different design elements around pulses, the core and the power, and you even get a range of specifically made patches just for spiccato work only, and spiccato synthesizers to help support. So there's a lot of hybrid nature in addition to the traditional orchestral string, brass, percussion and wind patches that you get. And those extra hybrid elements really give that modern, deep twist feel and adds another dimension to what's possible. Phew, I'm just exhausted and we haven't even started what we've got to get through today. All right, so let's have a quick look at some of the main and the spot mics. Let's start with everyone's favorite, well, at least my favorite, being the Pro strings themselves. So for those who are not familiar with the 8DO layout, and for those that are, you'll be happy to know that this works like many of the other traditional contact 8DO products. So in this case here for Pro strings, you have a menu that you can program all the slots within this particular instance. Those slots can be tailored with key switches to flip between different articulations. The articulation set itself, by double clicking on it, exposes a menu of options. Look at all you've got here, spiccato. And then within spiccato fast, we've got Maccato, Collegno, Bartok, sustains, power sustains, legatos, 3 different types of legato, 4 in fact, legato strong, I beg your pardon, there's 5, even though I've been caught off guard, legato with Maccato, arc control, group Bartok, some even really interesting stuff called savage hits and savage phrases. Let's have a quick look at spiccato to give you an idea of what this is all about. Gorgeous. Very quickly, how about we have a listen to the Collegno. For those who are not familiar with Collegno, it's when the string players turn their bow over and they smack the strings with the back of their bow, giving a very percussive sound. Maccato in strings, sustains. Let's go for power sustains even. Now I'm going to use some expression and dynamics, by the traditional expression being CC11 and dynamics being CC1. Gorgeous stuff. Really rich, really strong. I feel like I'm in a strong mood. Legato strongs. Now, I should say from the outset, and I didn't say this at the start, is that the 8DO Majestica offering are all ensembles. So your strings are mapped across your entire keyboard. So from the very bottom end in the bass range, moving into the cello range, into the higher cello viola range, to the upper, violins. And then maybe for something a little interesting, you may well be familiar with legato with a maccato, so it has that percussive start to the note. Arc controls are arcs or swells that have been recorded, so you don't necessarily have to use your CC11 and CC1 to swell in and swell out. That's already programmed in. Savage hits. There's some horror cues there. Bernard Herrmann, eat your heart out, hey? And I wonder, savage phrases, obviously in the similar vein. More stuff to be done there. Okay, now I'm going to go back to legato just to tell you a bit about the microphones and then we'll move on. So with this particular patch here, this is the main patch. So what this means is that you have all your articulations, but you have 1, 2, 3, 4 microphone choices, being a mixed version of all of them that's been pre-mixed by a DO, or you can choose to focus on the Decca tree. Or you can select the far mics. I'm just going to turn them off and do one by one. Or go right out to the wide ones, the outriggers. A little more in the background. But of course, you can select either one or more of those ones individually and then tailor your microphone mix according to your needs. Maybe more on the Decca, less so on the far, but more on the wide. We've got the equalizer. So again, you can bring your lows, your mids and your highs to taste, and convolution is all your reverb here. So you can choose from any number of convolution reverbs that are available, and then you can tailor the size of the room and the mix of the reverb itself. In contrast to winding down the Decca tree, bringing up the far, and let's make the bottom end really sing here. And I'll bring the high down. There's a sound that makes it sound like a 1950s radio serial. And then while we're at it, let me load up the complementary instance of Pro Strings, and this is having all the spot mics available. So again, all the same articulations are available. So I'm going to go back to the legato, but this time here we've got a microphone that's been tailored for each of the voices within the string orchestra, being bass, cello, viola, and violin. So when you're playing in the bass cello region, you may care to maybe turn off the violin and viola microphones. And let's bring up those ones here. Or again, choosing some extra viola microphones, which just means that the microphone for the violas is now open to the cellos when they're in the room. Now you see here, I've just soloed this instance to show you those different microphones, but I'm just going to take it off. So what we've got here now in the same contact instance is an instance of the main microphones in conjunction with the spot mics. Big, dark, and epic. Okay, so the same pattern occurs for the brass, the high woodwinds, the low woodwinds, and the percussion, as we've just seen for the string. So let me just give you a quick overview of the brass. So again, let's have a listen. We won't go through everything because you'll get familiar with the picture, but gorgeous. Staccatos, there's staccatissimo, maccato, a muted maccato, sustains and power sustains for the really big epic stuff, which is what we're all about today. Big sounds, gorgeous stuff. There's swoops and rips. There are even bend ups, bend downs, savage hits and phrases, bit like its string counterparts. Probably some weird stuff going here. Lots of textures to play with there. As I said earlier, you've got the spots. I won't go through the spots themselves. The winds also have similar heaps of opportunities here in the winds. Staccatissimo, obviously. This is the high woodwinds right up into the flute range. And again, likewise, a whole range of double tonguing even for that. Maccato, sustains, power sustains. So the sustains in the top end of the flute. All the way down to the bottom. And that big bassoon range. Just so much to go through. I better give you a quick run through on the percussion side of things too. Again, just a wealth of opportunity here. Tom-toms. Let me just double check. I've got the tom-toms there. Some rolls. Individual hits. Wow, massive. Timpani hits, grand casses, yes, of course. Let's put the decker on. Wow, just heaps. Timpani, crescendo rolls, timpani hits, snare drums. Does anyone else always feel like they've got to use the 20th Century Fox fanfare when they hear a snare? Always comes to me. Snares, tambourines, large snares, anvils, sticks and claps, cymbals, scratches, tam-tams, small gongs, large gongs. Oh my goodness. Everything you're going to need, including obviously all the spot mic equivalent. There is the Percussion Master, which is bringing it all together. You have Master Percussions, so all mapped out across one big patch. There's your snare. With obviously velocity control as well. Wow, geez, this is just the percussion, guys. This is just the percussion. Okay, so let's just draw a breath from what we've seen so far. We've just covered the brass, the high winds, the low winds, the percussion, and of course the strings, your classic orchestral voices. Now, let's move on to some of the other really in-depth stuff you get with Ultra, being the ambiences and the film basses and the like. Okay, so now that we've covered the main parts of the orchestra and all the different microphone opportunities you've got and the huge array of articulations across each of those different sections, let's move up into what you get with the Ultra range, and that's the range of ambiences and additional synthesized tools. Now, these are great tools to have in your arsenal to add that hybrid color that's so prominent in today's big epic stuff. So in the range of Ultra ambiences, I'm going to click in here, and we've already got 3 different type of ambiences available. This one's called organic ambiences, and already there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different types. So as the name suggests, ambiences, adding some sparkle. Of course, some CC11 and CC1. Mother tongue. Serenity. Really lovely undertones. Let's have a listen to, oh gee, you know what? I didn't even get to the core ambiences. I'm intrigued. Wow. I haven't even seen these, I don't think. Ambiences core with plucks. So obviously a series of plucked string instruments. Gorgeous stuff, gorgeous. Maybe I'm intrigued now. Ambiences that are extended. So it sounds like some pads with some of those plucks. And these ones are called Steve Travaglione ambiences, and I believe Steve was one of the core sound designers for this product. Gorgeous, really nice. A couple of at random here. Love me a string drone. Wow. Oh, there's just so much. All right. One more. I can definitely hear some lovely ambient strings on top of that. Wow. All right. We better move on to the final set. There's 5 patches of vocal drone ambiences. Oh, am I going to get myself in too deep here? We're never going to come out of this alive, are we, guys? Be creepy. Let's double up something. This is another patch. This is ambiences number 4. Let's solo it. Wow, really, really nice stuff. There's got to be some really opportunity for some deep stuff going on there. Let's move along to the film bass. Now, I really like this one. So let me just clear out this multi. Let's put in the film bass. Now, as the name suggests, this is for Epic bass. Let's put it down the bottom end. Big Moog sound by the sounds. Nice enhancer. There's some big booms in there. Yeah, love it. So obviously a whole range of really deep bottom end Moog-like synthesizers that you can play with as well. And as I mentioned earlier in the opening bit too, this one is all film brass. Again, synthesizers that are designed to enhance your brass pads. So you can hear that brassy top end when you open up the mod wheel. Very useful in their own right, but if I go back to the Pro and I'll pull up some brass and I'm going to drag in an instance of the brass itself. Now let's select power sustains. I'm going to solo the brass. Cool, but let's drop in the bass brass. Really open up some of that throatiness. What's Mind Melter? Yeah, I can feel that. And with the brass, that's with the bass really prominent. Let's pull it down a little bit. Whoops, wrong way around. Let's make the brass stand out. And we'll pull back the bass synthesizer. You know where that can go, can't you? Very cool indeed. Okay, cool. Let's get into the last bit, orchestral designs. Orchestral designs, let me reset the multi here in Contact and design core. Okay, all their hits. Yeah. These are really high quality hits, guys. These will sound fantastic in your productions. If you listen closely, they're not just hits, they've got a bass element mixed in with it as well. And a different hit on each key. Oh yeah. Three libraries represented. Number 3. Very cool. Very cool. I didn't realize the mod wheel was on it. Orchestral effects. Wow, fantastic stuff. Whooshes. Man, they're bouncing around my cans. Wow, and of course drones. That's an earthquake coming. All right. So you've got heaps to choose from when it comes to orchestral designs, percussion, and hits and whooshes. Wow, that's all you're ever going to need. And finally, there's even some spiccato libraries. So this is all about enhancing your short, sharp spiccato. Now I'm just playing live there, but I'm sure if you program it up, gorgeous. And the spiccato synths, let's add them alongside the other spiccatos. Actually, let's solo them on their own. I think they deserve their own. Wow, too many to choose from. Gorgeous stuff all around. So there you have it, guys. There's a walkthrough of just about everything that covers us off in Majestica. And you know what? We have barely scratched the surface. I've spent probably, 30 odd hours with this library, and I'm still discovering, as I have done just in this walkthrough with you today, things that I thought I'd already covered and I hadn't seen before. So the opportunities are endless. You get the full range of orchestral products. You get the winds, the brass, the percussion and the strings. But of course, with the Ultra, you get the ambiences and the film bass and the brass synthesizers, hits and whooshes and other effects and sound design aspects and synth spiccatos. So if there's anything else you ever need for an epic piece of music, I don't know where you're going to find it, because I think you will find it in here. Okay, cool. So look, having gone through all that in a step-by-step way, let me take you through now a composition where I attempted to try and pull together some of the features I've just shown you to create a composition that I hope will do justice to Majestica. Hey, let's just dive straight into the composition piece, shall we? And I'll give you an overview of the main core thought processes, if you will, because there's quite a fair bit going on in here. And hey, it'll be boring if I took you through every nuance that I came up with. In terms of opening the piece, I decided to use an offering from Majestica called Majestica Ambiences. So under there, they've got these ambiences, and as the name suggests, a series of offerings of plucks and pads and sounds that will give you some added sparkle, if you will. So now I'm just going to turn something off that I have applied. And so this one here is called Gentleness. You get the idea. But I think that might be really nice if I just added over here a standard door arpeggiator to arpeggiate my chords as they came in. And it kind of started out with this. And I just threw in a string drone on top. And that led into the opening of the next part. Now, the next part was really the main engine of the piece. It's really about the ostinato itself. And again, just to recap what that's about. And not unsurprisingly, I have selected the spiccato fast articulation from Majestica Pro strings. I've also added in another instance of the same plugin, but I've also used the spot mics. So there's two ranges of mics available. There is the traditional tree mics, if you like, and the room mics, as well as spot mics to give your strings, or your instruments for that matter, a broader depth opportunity. Really, really useful there. So there's your engine. Now, it was a little bit of a trick in terms of how I arrived. I didn't actually program all these spiccatos by hand, as you can imagine. Quite a fair bit going on there. Essentially, I borrowed a tool from another vendor's product, and their particular product allows you to play chords and it generates some arpeggiated notes for you. And so I merely exported out the generated MIDI from that product and dropped it into this track here, and then teed up the Majestica string staccatos next to it, giving us our rhythmic engine for the piece. Moving along, so now we've got an engine. It's time to bring in some long strings, of course. Let's bring them in. Beautiful deep cello, supported by a bass as well. And you'll see this pattern is simply cycling around a G minor, a B flat, an F major, and then to a D with an F sharp bass, back to the G minor. That's all it is for the whole piece, building layer and layer and layer. We've got some brass, adding in that brassy goodness. Let me just put the shorts off here. Bring in some horns. And what's also really nice here is the addition of film brass synthesizer. So Ultra Film Brass in Majestica, you have a film brass synthesizer. And as the name suggests, just allows you to add some further depth by giving that really brassy sound. Let's have a listen to what that looks like in isolation. If I can put this on for a moment. And you can hear that brassiness already. Really good under your horn section. Of course, always a good idea to think about some automation. to give those swells to the expression and the modulation. So now we've got some strings, we've got our brass. Obviously we're going to need some epic percussion along the way. And quite a simple series of loops. I've got some toms, I've got some epic percussion. Again, I've borrowed some of these from outside of Majestica, but these are also ADO products and they're fantastic. So there's some hybrid drums from there. We've got some more hybrid drums there, and I've got something else down here, some epic taiko drums from product from ADO. Put them all together. Here they come. And let's go back up a bit. Some chimes of the tubular bells. And let's throw in some Majestica percussion with cymbals and swells and gongs. Beautiful. We're almost there. There's a synth pulse. So the synth pulse, you can feel it already. It's acting that kind of drifting from left to right synth bass pulse. Again, another offering within Majestica itself. So Majestica is not just your strings, your brass and your percussion. You get hybrid synthesizers and ambiences and vocal ambiences. It's really fantastic. So now we've got this whole piece coming together, but there was one piece missing that I really wanted to bring together. And that was the presence of a massive choir. So I've brought in some 8-Dio Lacrimosa. Now, again, just to be clear, this is not part of Majestica, but hey, I just felt like it really needed some epic male and female voices, so I've brought along Majestica for the ride. Majestica allows you to program your different syllables, but I've chosen to use their sequence function, which allows you... Let's have a listen to what that sounds like. In fact, I'll isolate it quickly for you. Here's the MIDI for it. Here is the piece. And the sequencer allows you to sequence the syllables. Lovely. But we're also going to need very shortly the ladies in the female choir. And similarly, I've also programmed their sequence of syllables. And together, all in beautiful harmony. Bringing it all together. And to finish it off, some massive, big, concluding percussion booms. Again, courtesy of Majestica, with a huge array of percussion and booms and whooshes and drones and hits to keep you going for many a composition. So there you are, a lot going on, folks, around that big piece of work. Hopefully you enjoyed it, inspired you to some ideas. Majestica can really bring out the epic Hans Zimmer in you if that's your thing. All right, now that we've got that far, let me give you my final thoughts and we'll wrap up today's video. As I mentioned at the start of today's video, Majestica used to be a well-kept industry secret, available only to a select few professional composers, and its content has appeared in countless blockbuster movies and productions. It was considered too expensive and unobtainable back then for the average musician, even if it were available, So while it's not exactly the newest content on the market, it still sounds totally fresh, is very extensive and expansive, and at a shade under $100, I'd jump at this if you love that Hans Zimmer meets Thomas Bergerson epic trailer thing. You won't have to buy any separate libraries for whooshes, effects and booms, they're all included right here. The only notable omission to my mind was the absence of string tremolos, which I would have thought would have been standard in an Epic ensemble library, just a consideration. The extra microphones are totally worth it to give you more options to sound bigger and to be able to place them in the stereo field to max out that space. Of course, there is an art in itself, so you will need to learn that art to get the most out of them. And I understand that 8Dio are in the process of converting this library over to their new SoundPaint platform, which I think will be a huge plus. The Contact UI, although perfectly functional, looks of its day. But for me, the killer app is the extra stuff in Ultra. The sonic hits, the booms, the ambiences, the film bass, the brass synths, all are very adaptable and are generic enough to cover nearly every application. I'm not ordinarily drawn to Epic libraries, but this one had me engaged for ages and I really enjoyed it. It might be worth your time to find out if it is for you too. And all that's left for me now is to say thank you for spending some time with me and 8Dio's Majestica. And if you got this far, a big nod of appreciation from me to you. At the Sampleist, we love making this content as our contribution to the composer community. So before you go, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and leave me a comment below on what you think of 8Dio's Majestica. Is it likely to be a part of your musical arsenal? This is Greg Revell for the Sampleist signing off, and as always, urging you to find your sound and find your soul. See you on the next one.